video before we even started watching it. I'm a good person. I'm being objective.
If you come out of this thinking, it deserves a thumbs up, I would be very shocked.
Honestly, it doesn't even deserve a thumbs down. It deserves something worse. But there is nothing worse.
No, you haven't seen the whole video yet. The clips could have been taken out of context. I mean, obviously he was very, sure of himself, and that's why he, cut 45 minutes of it out.
Yes. Alright, to preface this video before we start watching, if this happens to be watched by anyone, which I know it won't, so I'm not too fucking worried about it, but just in case.
It might, just because it's like a flavor of the month thing right now.
Yeah, but on the off chance that that does happen, don't harass this idiot. We're just making fun of the video. There's no reason to go after him, and yeah.
I'm gonna be honest, I don't give a fuck if you do harass him.
Don't listen to Mago, he's an idiot.
I mean, look, we're the small channel, so we don't have to worry about that. See, if anything, he has to, tell his fans not to harass us. Because he's the one with actual fans.
You're not wrong, but I feel like there's a responsibility here to say, don't stoop to this idiot's level.
Okay. Alright.
Don't
harass him.
We're going in this from kind of a unique perspective. I'm very far left, but I still like Windigoon and Turkey Tom and Mudahar and pretty much everybody he went after.
You also watch Vosh.
Yeah, I really enjoy Vosh's content. I think he's a little weird. Some of the shit that he said is sus, but his content is good, and I agree with a lot of the points that he makes. But Mago here is what, centrist?
I would say independent, because I'm not. I'm really more leaning left leaning in most things. I'm just not I guess the modern left, the whatever the progressive left or whatever.
I consider myself far left socially, but like politically, but not in the way of let's go out and fucking attack people who disagree with us.
Yeah, we're both pretty much cancel culture. We're not conservatives are fucking evil.
I have plenty of friends that are conservative. I live in a conservative state. My whole motto is just don't try to force people to live life your way. As long as you don't do that, I don't fucking care.
See, that's me. That's I think that describes me as perfectly as well.
So anyway, with all that bullshit out of the way, let's watch this shit show and make fun of it.
Also, I just want to say, I like how he calls it bad conservative horror movies. Because that's that's clickbaity as fuck.
Yeah.
Also, you might want to full screen it.
Alrighty. Everything good?
Yeah.
Alright, let's do this. We're doing this in parts, by the way. I don't know how long each part will be, but we'll see as it goes.
Yeah. Oh, never mind. I can't see because it's full screen.
Okay, I'll go back to the theater mode.
That's so stupid.
Alright, and... Come on.
Good praise of shadows. Also, I do like that intro, kinda.
Yeah.
I like how it feels kind of retro-y.
Yeah, I can get
kind of grindhousey.
It looks like an old school public broadcast kind of thing. It looks cool.
I think it's supposed to look like 70s, low budget film, grindhousey.
Oh, okay.
Or it might be public broadcast. I don't know. I think the channel is horror based.
Yeah.
You know perfectly well what I'm talking about. And if you wish to stay here under my jurisdiction, you will toe the line as I see fit. For your sake as well as mine.
You have a very evil mind, Aunt Phoebe.
Phoebe broke.
First thing I need to say, the first woman that was talking sounds like something this guy would say.
Yeah. I'm not sure who that was. I feel like I should know.
Well, weren't you paying attention? It's Aunt Fifi.
Oh, did it say that?
Yes.
Well, I don't know who Aunt Fifi is. I don't know if that's a person or a character. Okay, we don't have to like.
February 16th through the 18th,
Okay.
I traveled to Concord, North Carolina to attend this year's Mad Monster Party, which was far and away the most redneck and unprofessional convention that I'd ever been to in my life that was operating at this level of scale. The only thing that I could really compare it to for you is that it felt like something that was being run by that guy at your local small-town comic book store that had somehow gotten out of hand. The reason for my visit was due to a large amount of negative attention that the convention had received surrounding their
can you
headlining
pause it
guest of
real
honor,
quick?
the alleged.
Yep.
Okay, is the echo part of the video or is that just something in the recording?
I think that's because I have my volume up a little too loud. Let me turn it down some.
Okay, I mean, I want it to be able to we need a good balance between our voices and his voice. I could with the echo, I can't hear what he's saying.
Yeah.
Except that he said something about like rednecks and stuff. So I'm assuming this is. I'm gonna take a wild guess and say this is like conservative bad stuff.
Yeah, I'm assuming that
Redneck's
the
bad.
entire thing is just going to be conservatism bad, and anybody who isn't from the city is automatically conservative, which, fuck you.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he did say that like if you were from the Appalachians and you were white, there's like a 99% chance you're a racist or some shit.
Yeah, I heard that. Yeah, fuck this. As somebody who lives in a small town and is also very liberal to the point where I or lived in a small town, I would get into arguments with family and coworkers over political shit and had to learn to keep my mouth shut. Yeah, fuck you.
Kevin Spacey. But before we get to that, I think that we should talk about the convention itself, because once I arrived there, I realized very quickly how these conditions resulted in a Spacey invitation. As everything in the way that this was conducted is like the epitome of a misguided and mismanaged mess.
have
Now,
headphones.
booking Spacey is in
Not
any
on
sense
me,
of
no,
public
but I am gonna
optics a
turn on
very
closed
dumb
captions.
idea, and you could try to write these
Okay,
people
thank
off
you.
as just straight up morons, but they fully
Can you start it
understood
back
what
over?
they were doing.
Yeah.
As on
Because
the
I have
convention
like no
that I'd ever
idea
been to
what
in my
he's been
life
saying,
that was
and I
operating
couldn't
at this level
hear
of
very well because of the Okay.
Right.
That way you can like keep it as loud as you need so it can be heard. Also, you can send me the videos so I can like edit out the needless parts here like that.
Yep.
Chapter 1, the guest
You
of
know
honor.
perfectly well what I'm talking about. And if you wish to stay here under my jurisdiction, you will toe the line as I see fit. For your sake as well as mine.
You have a very evil mind, Aunt Phoebe.
Oh, she called her Aunt Fifi.
Over the weekend, February 16th through the 18th, I traveled to Concord, North Carolina to attend this year's Mad Monster Party, which was far and away the most redneck and unprofessional convention that I'd ever been to in my life that was operating at this level of scale. The only thing that I could really compare it to for you is that it felt like something that was being run by that guy at your local small-town comic book store that had somehow gotten out of hand. The reason for my visit was due to a large amount of negative attention that the convention had received surrounding their headlining guest of honor, the alleged rapist, Kevin Spacey. But before we get to that, I think that we should talk about the convention itself, because once I arrived there, I realized very quickly how these conditions resulted in a Spacey invitation. As everything in the way that this was conducted is like the epitome of a misguided and mismanaged mess. Now, booking Spacey is, in any sense of public optics, a very dumb idea, and you could try to write these people off as just straight up morons, but they fully understood what they were doing, as on all of their public advertisements, they just happened to forget to include Spacey along with all of the faces of the other big guests. They knew that they had to spin this. First of all, I arrived to the convention and their small main parking lot was already filled. and they gave me directions to their overflow parking area that upon arrival I realized was well over half a mile away from the event, and that they had arranged no shuttle services whatsoever, meaning that I had to walk down a dirt trail that had large rocks in it in the February cold to get back to their main building, which, was fine for me. I'm in relatively good health, but you can't expect all guests who want to attend your public event to be able to physically do that. At night, I then had to walk the same trail back to my car in pitch black darkness, which is just a lawsuit waiting to happen. I'm not someone to ever actually make a complaint about something like that, but the reality of the situation is that not providing shuttle services to guests who can't walk when you make them park so far away immediately makes you seem totally unprofessional. When I finally got inside to purchase a weekend ticket at the front desk, they tried to put a paper wristband on me. I tried to clarify, saying that I didn't want a day pass, I wanted the weekend pass. And they said that that was the weekend pass. I asked if they didn't have any security badges, which are the norm for essentially any con of this size, and they said no. They instead expected me to wear this paper wristband at all times for 3 days straight. By the second day, it was falling apart because I had taken a shower and it became very soggy and uncomfortable to wear. There were no posted schedules of the events anywhere in the building. I asked the front desk if they had any printed flyers or brochures of when the Q&A events were going to be held, and they told me no. They had nothing printed, and that the only way to find out what time things were happening was to go to the Mad Monster website and find their schedule there. At their Q&A events, the first 10 rows of the auditorium were reserved for VIP ticket holders only. The problem with that is that next to nobody purchased the VIP tickets, which resulted in the celebrities being separated from the audience by 10 mostly empty rows, really killing any kind of ability for the guests to build any kind of energy with the crowd, resulting in the panels being painfully awkward at times. Also because the guests were not actually really that famous, which we're gonna get to. The audience often just didn't have any questions for them because they didn't know who they were. So most of the Q&As only lasted for about 20 minutes or so, even though they had all been scheduled for an hour. I didn't eat before I got there the first day and expected to buy a snack at some point while I was there, and was very upset to learn that there was only an alcohol stand in the convention floor, and no food whatsoever. So I didn't end up eating until about 10 p.m. later that night. The next day I did actually learn that there was a food area for the con set up in the lobby of the hotel next to the convention center, but there were no signs telling you of this, and it was very much hidden. Luckily, the first night after having a late dinner, I could relax in the indoor pool that my hotel was advertised as having, which was just magnificent. Although, I guess I can't blame that on Mad Monster. Now, okay, first off, the argument should be made that even if the past 10 years of his life had not happened, should Kevin Spacey himself be the headlining guest at a horror convention in the first place? Most people, if you ask them what horror movies Spacey had been in, would probably space on an answer, which that answer being is that he has been in exactly one horror film, Seven, which was the primary visual theme of the convention, as they really emphasized that they had gotten Spacey as a guest by having all of the staff at the convention being marked by having these bright red shirts on them that read, "What's in the box?" The photo ops with him were a staged event with a desert backdrop, where you could get on your knees in front of Kevin Spacey, with your head through a hole that they had cut in a cardboard box that he was holding. You can't actually make that up. People were lined up for hours over the course of 3 days to pay Kevin Spacey, whose assets are estimated to be worth between 16 and 20 million, $300 each to get on their knees in front of him. After the announcement in January of his inclusion at the convention, Mad Monster, as most people sadly do when they are being publicly criticized, refused to cancel Spacey's appearance, instead deciding to double down and buckle up for a rough ride. They stopped posting on their Twitter and locked all of their comments, instead deciding to focus their promotion on the more pedestrian and less socially vocal social media platforms, like Facebook and Instagram. On those platforms, they reportedly began to block anyone who said something negative about their decision or the convention, one of which was the drag queen Naomi Monroe. According to WCCB Charlotte, one fan of the convention who had been going for years named Will Kinsler, who you may know as being involved with sports video games, was blocked by the Mad Monster page for expressing his concerns, and would later tell reporters, "I was dumbfounded, right? Shocked. I was disappointed immediately. It doesn't make me interested in attending this time or ever again. To invite somebody with these sorts of allegations of sexual misconduct surrounding them into what feels like our home of our community. You know, it was really concerning. It feels like a bit of a betrayal, right? I just wanted to tell them I don't think this is right and I don't like it. And now they've kind of taken my voice away from me. I'd hate for people to see this, that don't know and feel like we're a different kind of community than we are, and that we would welcome somebody in our community that's accused of doing these things that he's doing is disappointing for me. That somebody might find that is a reflection on us, and I want people to know that that's not the case at all. They would also delete any negative comments on their posts so that it looked like everyone universally supported what they had been doing. They posted a clip from House of Cards onto their Facebook page, where Frank Underwood confronts a homeless man who has been accused by the police and is suffering from a psychotic episode where he tells him, "Nobody can hear you, nobody cares about you, nothing will come from this." They also posted on their Instagram story an image of Spacey with the text, "Nobody cares about you." One major convention manager of a different event, who will go unnamed here, criticized their decision by saying, "As convention organizers, it's so important that we look at the big picture. People watch us. They watch what we're doing, and who we put our dollar behind. Hiring on performers and celebrities is an endorsement, not just of them, but of what they've done over their lives." Another convention, called Days of the Dead, posted on their social media a great little piece announcing that Ian Wyatt would be at their event in January, saying that he was going to be the only Predator at Days of the Dead.
Hi everybody, it's Kevin Spacey here, your mad monster, coming to Concord, North Carolina, February 16th through the 18th. That's right, all 3 days, and I'm looking forward to getting there. Also, while I got you, just want to take a moment and thank all my fans for all your support through all these years. It's meant so much to me, and I hope you can make it, because it'd be nice to meet in person.
And the thing about all of this is that for security reasons, Spacey was never once actually seen on the convention floor itself. He did not have a table, he did not take selfies, he did not do a Q&A. It was like he wasn't even there. They just had him locked in the back like he was the fucking Wizard of Oz, for staged photographs, because anything else could have exposed him to uncomfortable questions. And to that, I just gotta ask, if he isn't even going to be participating in the convention itself, why ruin your own reputation and name by having him there? Why choose to die on this hill? Because despite him not physically being seen, just him being in the building for 3 days lingered over the event like a haunting spirit. The vibes of this place were truly awful. Because they booked him, it resulted in many reputable vendors or guests refusing to even show up, by either not booking the convention or canceling their reservation. And this drastically hurt the overall tone and the experience of the convention itself. The atmosphere was genuinely depressing. I'm not trying to be an asshole when I say this, but one of the biggest guest that they could book was Tim Capello, the featured extra from The Lost Boys that plays the saxophone that is only on screen for a few seconds. One of their other major guests was Michael Lerner, who was not Michael Myers in Halloween 6, but instead was that guy's stunt double that was only used in a few shots in the film. I've talked to both of those guys and they're really nice, and I genuinely mean no disrespect to either of them, but even they would probably agree that they are not horror A-listers. They do not draw in crowds. Because they decided to back Spacey, they really had to scrape the bottom of the horror barrel to get anyone to come to this thing. And despite what they would say about having record numbers, the attendance felt completely dead. It really felt like there were about half as many people as there should have been there on a normal year. I mean, we're talking about a convention that not too long ago had Art the Clown and Captain Spaulding in the same room doing a joint clown photo op. They used to have legitimate guests, and by comparison, this thing was a total joke. They only had 23 guests at the show, including Spacey. 5 of them were old retired wrestlers who had nothing to do with horror. One was Taryn Manning, who basically has nothing to do with horror. They had 2 of the Dukes of Hazzard boys. You had Tom Welling and Michael Rosenbaum from Smallville. You had Chaz Palminteri from The Usual Suspects, who was there because of Spacey. You had Tom Cavanaugh from The Flash. There were only a couple of people who actually had anything to do with horror at all, like Shannon Elizabeth. The only other big names they got were Lou Diamond Phillips, who has nothing to do with horror, and Kiefer Sutherland, who was only there for a few hours on one day. And even though I do love them, and I mean no disrespect when I say this, Felicia Rose and Kane Hodder were both also there, which I'd say this in the nicest way possible, but they're basically at every single one of these things, so them being present is neither here nor there. So you can see that by booking Spacey, they totally ruined the show that they were throwing, even being about horror, because they couldn't get anyone with any major clout who was both respectable and majorly relevant besides those that I've mentioned within the genre to actually show up. Fellow horror
he could've
YouTuber
cut
Cody
this whole
Leach was
thing out.
actually also at the convention, and made his own videos on his experiences with it. He's a guy that I have not historically agreed with on most things. He listed Midsommar and The Lighthouse on his worst of list of 2019, complaining that horror shouldn't be this pretentious and snooty, his words, not mine, and should focus instead on being entertaining and not trying to be cute by using art house aspect ratios. Again,
I
his
agree.
words, not mine. He also did not appreciate
I
the
don't, but
homoerotic basis of the movie, and complained that it
haven't
was
seen
just
The Lighthouse,
weird for
and,
weird's sake. And to me, just didn't try
was
to appreciate the
kind of
film on its
indifferent to
level.
Midsommar
In my
when I saw
personal
it,
opinion,
but
he is a
didn't
deeply unserious
hard to
critic,
teach.
and can actually be to an extent a symbol of what I want the message of this video to be about. Because if you watched his video about Mad Monster Con, you would think it was a great time, a wonderful convention. There is a clear dichotomy between our two experiences, and I think there's something interesting in that. And this ties into this theory that I've had for a long time that is kind of the thesis of this video, and that I think there's actually not one, but two distinct horror communities that do not overlap. One that is more concerned with writing and thinking about how our own experiences and world are reflected through art. A group that overall is less concerned with how much a movie makes at the box office and more with what it is trying to say as a work of art, and how it relates to ourselves and culture as people. And then you have another that is more conservative and traditionally capital A American, and is based more in basic consumerism, and viewing movies strictly as entertainment and nothing else. A group that often gets
What the
angry
fuck
at the
is
very
wrong with
notion
viewing a
of
movie as
subtext existing within a
entertainment?
work of fiction, and views
we pause
art
it for
not
a
as a
minute?
means to express what it
I'm just thinking this is funny because Wendy Goon's like big video is like a 5-hour like analysis of Blood Meridian, which is a book.
Yep.
But like that's the main person, or that's at least the person that he apparently like went after, the main person, from what I've been seeing. And it's like,
But there's no overlap.
well, I don't feel like, I feel like this is the kind, like I don't even think this is like a horror thing. This feels like something you could like put with anything, like video games or just movies in general, music. Do you view music as just entertainment to listen to, or do you feel as like art to be dissected? This isn't just like a horror thing, so.
See, I guess I'm weird because I can see both sides with music. I love music that's
Yeah.
just entertainment, but I also love music that can be dissected and looked at
Well,
deeper.
well, yeah. I mean, I like stuff that could. I mean, you could have both.
But with
You could have-
horror
I mean,
movies,
and-
I'm more towards the entertainment.
Well, see, that's the thing. It's like some people, like, not everyone has to, like, look. And I see this as like the pretentious art housey guy here. Not every person has to like, be into dissecting the media they're into and shit. I mean, some people can just like enjoy whatever the fuck they enjoy. It doesn't have to be any deeper than it entertains them. I do agree. I would agree. Like, I do hate it when people like try and like make it out like it shouldn't be like looked at deeper. But again, that's the same. It goes the other way around. People should be allowed to just kind of enjoy things as mindless fluff or whatever.
Yeah, I can agree with that. But, like, for me personally, I've never really cared about, like, shot composition or the director's vision or the deeper meaning behind the choice of wallpaper. None of that shit really mattered to me. I care about good writing and relatable characters.
Yeah, I'm usually more like that, and like the other stuff is more like, I guess, bonus stuff, or like just bonus stuff to me usually. Which I mean, it just depends. I mean, you like Silent Hill though, so I mean, guess that would be like that's not a movie, but that's like a horror thing that you like look into deep into.
Yeah, that's definitely an exception to my rule. But there's something special with Silent Hill for me. I don't know how to explain it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I get that. But yeah, I guess you can turn it back up, put it back on. But yeah, so we got to the point where we're starting to get bullshitty.
Yeah, definitely. He's starting to show the what's the best way to put this? People on the
is
left talk
real-
about conservatives like this a lot, that they have a black and white mentality where they see things as their way and no other way. That's exactly what this guy's doing.
Exactly. I mean, I clearly see people. I mean, I know it's just Twitter, but I see like people be like, "All conservatives are evil,"
Yeah.
and they say that being like right wing is inherently a bad thing.
I disagree with pretty much everything on the right, but I don't think that people are evil for their beliefs. I think that a lot of it has to do with like upbringing and the way they were raised and where they were raised at.
Yeah, and also it's like when you say that, it's like you're basically saying like half the country is evil.
That too. But another thing that's itching at me is at the beginning of this video, he was talking about rednecks in a very derogatory way. But
Yeah.
my issue isn't necessarily you don't like rednecks, whatever, that's fine. But it seems kind of hypocritical to me that this is the crowd that always talks about how we need to be more understanding of the disenfranchised. But as somebody who has lived as a redneck, quote unquote, they're very disenfranchised most of the time, very low budget, very underclass, so to speak. And we're othering them, and that's okay because they're rednecks, quote unquote.
Well, they're white.
Yeah, that too. Alright, let's hit it back up.
To exist, but instead that sees the value of creation just within the context of how fun and experience that product is. And product is the right word here, as this side of horror is obsessed with money and defending companies, and even when putting on a
Fuck
mask
you.
of pretending to be left-leaning, everything that they do is in the service of capital and big business. I hate to put it in terms like this, but I think deep within the heart of horror at the moment, and the country as a whole, there's a problem of anti-intellectualism raging at people who want art to be more, or to stand for something important. A group of people yelling, just let people enjoy things, while the other side argues that we can do better, we can be more, which
Why
is
can't we
something
have
we are going
both?
to get to soon, so just
Exactly.
bear with me here. I know this is a long video. In his 33 minutes of talking about the convention and everything that happened around it, Leach fails to mention Kevin Spacey outside of a single joke about the situation over 20 minutes into the video.
Kiefer Sutherland was outside in the actual hallway with his own isolated room. That's that star power right there. The only other person that had that was Kevin Spacey. He was on a different floor for completely different reasons. But
Not only that, if we look at this footage that I shot, compared to the footage that he shot, you can see that he has clearly framed his angle standing roughly at the exact same spot I was, so as to not show the giant Kevin Spacey banner hanging over the lobby. At another point, he includes a table with some photographs of Spacey near the very
So we're reading
end, but
people's
outside of
minds
that,
now and
you wouldn't even
determining
know
what
that
their
he had been there
intentions
based
were
on his
based on how
video.
they angled
And
the
you
shot
know,
for a fucking
I think that
YouTube
people who
video?
are in my line of work have a certain level
I
of
guess.
responsibility to appropriately cover the things that we choose to talk about. So in my opinion, making a glowing half-hour-long video about how cool Mad Monster is in the wake of them trying to publicly rehabilitate Spacey's image into a right-wing personality at a convention held in the South, which happened within weeks after he appeared on Tucker Carlson's show, is not a very responsible use of your platform. And, you know, he did have his complaints about the convention, including talking about the outrageous parking situation in the footage
If
where he
he
actually
enjoyed it,
walks pretty
I
close to
don't
my car.
care.
If
He
had
talked about the
fun, he
layout
had
of the
fun. He's
convention
allowed to
being
talk
not very
about how he had
professional,
fun.
about the lines being disorderly, but never once
He has
does
to
he
be
have a single
responsible
word
with
of criticism
his
about Mad
shit.
Monster as an organization for their attempted rehabilitation of Kevin Spacey as a public
I'm just
figure,
gonna say
or the
this
fact
about
that he is
responsibility
greatly
to the
profiting
platform.
off this appearance from
The only
people who are probably
responsibility you have
struggling,
to
and
your
honestly,
platform is the
probably can't or at
responsibility
least
you feel you
shouldn't
have. That's
afford
my
the
opinion.
$300 fee that it costs to get in the
Yeah.
room with him
If you
for
feel
maybe
like you
10
need to,
seconds.
like,
He then goes on to say
mother
that he
hen
looks
your
forward to going
audience,
to Mad Monster
that's
Con
fine.
again
Do
next
that.
year.
There are
But
people
even
who
if you
enjoy
look
that.
at some of his
But if
footage
you
within
want
his
people
own
to
video,
do
you can
things
just
their
see
way
how
and you
dead
just
this
give your
place
opinion,
was.
that's fine
Most of
too.
my footage was taken from the busiest times of the day, but the majority of the con before noon and after 2 p.m. just felt totally empty. And the
And I
depressing
don't wanna say
visuals that
that
he's showing in
Leech or
his video
whatever,
do
or
not
just- I
match
don't know
with his
anything about
glowing
Leech. I
review.
saw him on
I don't
Twitter.
want to make presumptions
I
about
mean, you
Leach.
can, like,
I had the opportunity to
criticize
talk with him
him,
that
but
day. I saw him walking around a few times,
the
but
way he's
decided
going
against
about
it.
it is just
So
so-
we've never actually
framing
met.
is very
But in his
dirty.
video,
Yeah.
there are a couple of
Yeah.
red flags that really scream out at me.
Shannon Elizabeth, one of the objects of my youth.
if you like really crass comedies from the 2000s before everything got all sensitive, definitely check out Sorority Boys.
So to me, he is one and the same with Mad Monster, both spinning content for money while ignoring the potential harm that the event itself might cause. And I'm really not trying to harm Leech's
Potential
image by
harm it
comparing his experience to mine. Again, I don't know the man. And to be honest, I don't actually really think that he would be that bad of a guy. Just painfully centrist, seemingly leaning a little towards liberal. Like, he tweets pro-LGBT stuff, anti-racist stuff, but then he says things like, said it before and I'll say it again. Right or left, the extreme political people are fucking nut jobs.
Agreed.
And I despise a review being a political statement. And
Agreed.
I have no clue why
Yeah.
politics has to work its way into literally everything, but I despise the fact that it does. So,
Agreed.
you know, a bit of a mixed bag there to me. I don't want this whole section of the video to just be about him. He's a small example.
Okay. Like, I get that it's annoying that there's people who, like, politics shouldn't be in anything.
Yeah.
But then it's like, you also have, like, these people who are, like, on the other extreme side who just want to, like, shove it in everybody's face.
Yeah, and that's on both
And you
sides,
have-
left and right. They both do that.
Exactly. But you also have, like, these people, I think, like, this guy, they hate people who are centrist.
Yeah, I've noticed that.
They really hate like, because what am I trying to say? They like, they act like that you're not allowed. Like, again, this is what I hate. He's talking about the black and white things, but they keep pushing this idea that you have to either be left or right.
Yeah, I don't mind if you want to like focus on politics with everything. That's totally cool. Even with your like movie reviews, like this guy is like very I'm on the left and everything I do is going to be through the lens of the left. Totally fine. I'm okay with that. There are YouTubers that I watch that do that, and I think it's great. Mooncat is fucking awesome. I just found her channel. But if somebody doesn't want to do that and doesn't want to get involved in politics, they should have that right.
Yeah. But I just like how centrist is like this dirty word, especially like it's more so among like the left. Like, they're very anti-cent, like if they feel almost threatened by like centrist, and that's when you see like all the centrists being called right wingers.
Yeah. Behind every centrist is secretly a right winger or some shit like
Even
that.
though most of the centrists I see are usually like pro-LGBT, pro-choice and stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
This is why I'm fine with being on the far left, but I hate everybody who's associated with it.
Yeah.
And of course,
Yeah.
I know that if anybody watches this who is on the left, it's going to be, well, you're not really on the left. It doesn't matter what I believe or my personal politics. All that matters is, am I willing to consider everyone who doesn't agree with me the enemy?
That's what it fucking feels. I think that it feels like that, don't it?
Exactly.
Yeah, it's insane. I guess you can start it back up. I just wanted to.
Yeah.
Of a greater problem that I think is an issue within horror, which is that the existence of centrist and liberal views, mixed with a love of genre, acts as a shield and breeding ground for right-wing harm within our community. Because, as we will see time and time again throughout this, people who hold these liberal stances will side with conservatives over progressives at every single given opportunity, and will not criticize horror unless it is art house, and also will not stand for other people to criticize horror. You know, I myself have never once in my life described a woman as an object. I think that he should put more thought into the words that he says publicly, and how he uses his platform. But also, he genuinely seems like an alright guy. Which is the issue here. The slow creep of conservatism within all forms of art, and every aspect of life, is marched down a road that is paved by smiling friendly liberals. A centrist view of this event didn't even think that it was worth mentioning the act of harm that was being done here. Because we were just all there to have a good time after all, right? It is a mindset of consume the product and ask no questions about how the product was actually made, or who was harmed in the making of this product.
I'm in here,
Call
and
me
if I see
cynical,
him,
I
I will
just
be
don't
very
think
happy
that
to see him.
Kevin
But
Spacey being there
at the same time, I
or not
understand
would
the
have had that big
allegations
of an
against
effect on
him,
his
and
career and
it's
shit.
kind of weird. But Mad Monster is an amazing thing that I'm glad I'm at. And whether or not he's here doesn't stop how awesome this convention is.
Again, I mean the man no ill will, genuinely. I do not wish to harm his livelihood whatsoever by including him here. Please do not go say mean things to or about him. I will not stand for anyone who is mentioned here to be harassed in any way. Do not do that. I think as a culture, we need to learn where to actually direct our anger in constructive ways based around unity that will result in actual tangible good, which is something I shouldn't have to outright say, but after my Halloween video last year, a lot of people sent Sean death threats and threats of violence, which is absolutely 100% genuinely unacceptable. It is behavior that I would never under any circumstances condone or encourage, and I'm deeply ashamed of any person who did that on my behalf. It should not be our way, and the real problem in this situation is clearly those actually facilitating Mad Monster as an organization.
Okay, can you pause
the companies
for a second?
themselves.
Yep.
Okay, so he just said that his fans sent somebody death threats, right?
Yep.
But then you have these people who are going, "Oh my God, Wendigo's fans are calling him the F slur and all this shit."
Yeah,
That's like a way to...
he disavows any of his fans that say bad things, but then uses Wendigoon's fans as a
I don't know
weapon?
if he in specific did that, but I saw like a lot of other people, like that was a big point that was being brung up by his defenders.
I'm gonna say this one time and one time only. Wendigoon is not in the minds of his fans. He cannot control the things that they say or do.
And that's like any big like YouTube creator. Like if you go after any big like YouTuber or something, or go you know, you're gonna have like fans who just like are assholes and like call them like slurs or Nazis and shit.
And I'm just gonna scroll down real quick and point out right here is him trying to mitigate the harm that his fan base is doing.
That's apparently not good enough, is what I understand.
Yeah. Speaking of which,
I guess he should have like that because he should have done it on Twitter. I guess I don't fucking know.
Yeah, do it on Twitter, not the place where all the hate is actually going.
Yeah.
Almost always the problem here. People like Leech are merely side effects of the real issue. The day after the convention ended, Mad Monster posted on their Facebook, "Thank you all who joined us for a record-setting show. Your support always means a lot, but this time it really hit home. The overwhelming amount of you that took the time to express your love and appreciation made this easily our favorite party that we've ever hosted. We will continue to throw Mad Monster Party for you, not for random autograph collectors on the sidelines, basing their attendance on the current guest lineup. Not for hypocritical virtue-signaling keyboard warriors, many of which still showed up. We threw this party for the Mad Monster family."
And
That
this
shit
is
is
the reason
cringe,
that he
too.
included this in the beginning, because he got it fucking stuck in his craw that these people called him out.
I do get kind of sick of hearing just seeing the words virtue signaling.
Yeah,
and all that shit. All the
I
time.
do agree with that. It's very overused.
Yeah, I hate that term.
Virtue signaling, woke,
Woke.
all of that shit. Yeah, the conservatives, like far right conservatives, use that way too fucking much. And the words
Yeah,
ideology
of
and cult are their new favorite buzzwords.
Yeah.
Grown
Well,
with
that
us
does
over
feel
the
like a cult was like how much, like just much they're against anybody who thinks differently.
Yeah.
who get their tickets and hotels before the first guest is even announced. We know you're here for each other as much as for the guest and the vendors. Samantha Osborne, who worked the convention and has been employed by Mad Monster for the past 2 years, said on her Facebook page, "This weekend Mad Monster hosted Kevin Spacey's first ever convention appearance. Despite varied opinions going in, there were no protests, and Spacey was received warmly. As a guest, he was nothing but gracious. That's all I have to say
Hey,
on the
I'm kinda
matter."
surprised
Witchy
there was
Woman
no
on Twitter
protest.
said, "A lot of vendors are
Yeah.
pulling out of Mad Monster Con and NC because of Kevin Spacey being on the guest list. It sucks because a lot of greats will be there. She then tagged several of the prominent guests, including John Glover, who played Riddler on Batman the Animated Series, who said, "No one pulled out. It was a lovely weekend. I don't appreciate tags in this nonsense. There are real dangers in the world. The Mad Monster guest list is not one of them." She responded by saying, "I know a few vendors personally, but please tell me more," to which he didn't respond. The Daily Wire in this time ran a piece defending the convention and their booking of Spacey. And just my opinion here, but no horror event should ever fumble the bag so badly that you get the Nazi news force coming to bat for you. That's like a shining example of how badly you have failed your community. In the week after the convention, Kevin Spacey tweeted a video, which is something that he almost never does. In fact, since his fall from grace in October of 2017, he has only tweeted 5 times. This was his 5th tweet, a video thanking Mad Monster for welcoming him back into public life, saying that he had a wonderful weekend and how grateful he was for the opportunity, ending by saying that he was looking forward to appearing at the next Mad Monster event. He has since announced that he is working again in Paul Schrader's next film, and little by little, he is attempting through events like Mad Monster Con to establish a base within American culture.
Hey everybody, I'm just back from an incredible weekend I spent in Charlotte, North Carolina at the Mad Monster Convention.
Pause for a minute. This has him getting back into the, getting back up is not really horror related.
No.
That's just he's a fucking big celebrity. He's been in a lot of big movies and shit. I mean, it's like how, Roman Polanski kept making movies.
Yeah.
And that got really big. If this feels kind of like separated from horror now.
It's definitely separated from horror, but in Praise of Shadow's defense, I can see the conservative angle with this, because a lot of times when a famous person fucks up really bad, they'll start grifting to the right because they know that they'll be accepted.
Been doing that. Yeah. Yes, I know he's been doing. I agree with that. And the Daily Wire, it sucks, sure. But the end was to me, him calling the Daily Wire a Nazi news organization is like me calling CNN a commie news organization.
Yeah. If it was the Daily Stormer that was writing the article, I could see the complaint.
That'd be really bad.
Yeah.
But then again, it's you can't even then you can't really control what news organizations are gonna
Yeah, fucking the Daily Stormer made articles about PewDiePie.
Yeah, and I don't think PewDiePie's a Nazi.
No.
Even if a lot of people still want to believe that.
I think the worst thing that he ever did was having was it Ben Shapiro on his show? It was some right wing person.
Yeah, I think he had Ben Shapiro on once, or it might have been one of the other the was it the Rubin it was Steven Crowder.
Maybe it was Crowder. Somebody did meme review, an episode of meme review, and I can understand how that's a kind of a bad look to have somebody that far right on your channel, but
yeah,
it's still his choice, and he doesn't seem to be racist or whatever.
Well, they'll say the bridge.
Yeah.
And then, because they don't understand that, they don't understand old school Newgrounds edgy boy humor.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't care if he. And I'm not one of those who thinks that you can't host people like Ben Shapiro on your show if you want.
Yeah, you can do whatever the hell you want. It's just I can understand how it's a bad look.
I do. Personally, I would like to have Ben Shapiro on so I can dunk on him. Especially for shitty opinions about how Nolan films are the greatest things ever.
The only thing I want to dunk on him for is that song he did with Tom McDonald, namely because you could tell he was at a green screen the entire music video, and he didn't have the balls to actually show up at Tom McDonald's warehouse.
Oh, no, I would. I would ask him about his sister's titties, though.
What about his dry the dry pussy of his wife? All right, let's continue.
Say, we ain't conservative. We're shitting on.
I fucking hate Shapiro and Crowder and that entire the entire Daily Wire crowd. Whatever yeah, all of them are fucking morons.
Fun, and I'm
we should
so
know
grateful
we're
to
morons ourselves.
all the fans who came out to say hello. Your kind words meant so much to me. And, you know, people brought things also that I'd never seen before. Posters I'd never seen and memorabilia, but in particular, it was the new stuff.
You want to hear a confession?
Amazing.
Sure.
No, you didn't have to pause it.
Clay guy. This is oh my.
I don't know what Kevin Spacey's been in.
I signed a number more.
First of all, what is your name? I'm Barry. Barry, thank you, Barry. This is incredible. And second, how long have you been doing it?
All my life. I've been in business.
He was technically
a week or so to put it together, so it was really kind of to bring it to me as a gift. I also had a chance to see old friends like Chaz Palminteri, who's just a wonderful actor, but he's an even better person in real life. He was Agent Crouillon in Usual Suspects, and he was also in a film we did together called Pearl Burger, which he's great in.
Like I think they
so it was great to catch up with him. I also saw John Glover, I saw Lou Diamond Phillips, Kiefer Sutherland, a lot of people I just haven't seen in a long time. But also the people who run Mad Monster, they did such a great job. I mean, right from the people who have been running it for a long time, all the way down to the volunteers. So many people came by to say hello, and I felt so welcome. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to seeing you at the next one, and we'll have an announcement soon about when that's going to be. So take care of yourselves.
Is it a wrestler?
Hi, we're Visible, the wireless company that makes things visible.
This is the best part of the video so
is
far.
What you get.
True.
Anatomy of a Fallout.
Is it Fallout New Vegas? Maybe I will like this video.
God damn it!
I'd like to talk to you about the worst week of my life. So, January of 2022. Okay, I made a video about The Hills Have Eyes that went very badly. And I've never really spoken about this or even really addressed that it was a thing, except for maybe just a couple of times on Twitter. I guess when it happened, I just hoped that it would eventually disappear, but it never has. And I think that we should start here by addressing the elephant in the room far too long after he arrived.
In the room?
So, this is a brief reanalysis of Wes Craven, The Hills Have Eyes, and the internet's general response to some pretty basic things that I said about him and his work about 2 years ago. In the time since making that video, very often it is the case that when conservatives want to criticize me, they will go back to that and use it as a weapon, by twisting my words in very bad faith to make it look like I said something that I obviously did not intend if you had watched the video. Usually in an attempt to make me either look crazy, or cartoonish, or racist, or that I don't know what I'm talking about, and I'm unqualified to have this job. A recent example of this happened in this past January, when Mark After Dark on Twitter said, IPOS himself has said some really racist shit towards Native First Nations people in his Hills Have Eyes video too. He's not one to talk. In fact, Mark After Dark has been slandering me pretty consistently now for years in relation to The Hills Have Eyes, often getting hundreds of likes every single time by either saying lies about me or really taking my words in completely bad faith. And every time that he does this, it hurts my reputation just a little bit more. These things do have a very real effect, because if people say things enough times, then other people will believe it. It doesn't matter if it's actually true. He was the first that I could tell to actually tweet something negative about me in the fallout from that video's release, when he said, YouTube film essayist, the cannibals in The Hills Have Eyes are actually the good guys, because they're poor, and the family is everything wrong about America. They're middle class and one is a retired cop. Cuts to footage of January 6th storming the Capitol. Which, I hope you'll be able to see is taking my basic argument and contorting it to appear as ridiculous as possible, even though it did make sense within the context of the actual video.
Okay,
I mean, that video is an hour and 25 minutes. Reducing what I was trying to get across down to a single one-sentence tweet, of course, is going to make me look like an insane person.
Okay,
you can literally do that with anything that anyone says, but it isn't being done in the fair spirit of argument. It isn't an actual response to what I was saying. It is lashing out like a toddler. He got 370 likes with that one. Another time, to 867 likes, he said, I like IPOS videos for the most part, but this man has brain worms. His Hills Have Eyes video is the most schizophrenic far leftist ramblings I've ever heard. He said the family deserved to be raped and killed because they represented colonial USA and the Hill people are native. By my count, he has tweeted at least 10 times over the past 2 years about this, and that is without me actually even looking very hard. I'm sure it has happened even more than that. I have never once before now interacted with him or even acknowledged his existence. And he's often really condescending with this too. In one tweet saying that I must have forgotten my meds that day. Essentially, every single time implying that I think rape, violence, and cannibalism is literally a good thing, and that I'm also a racist. Around that same time in January, an account going by Crackhead Clyde said to me, I don't get how you can show more sympathy for the violent cannibals in The Hills Have Eyes than a kid who is defending himself during a riot.
Okay,
or a
what was your
competing
fucking point in the video?
Yeah, that's my first thing. My second thing that I needed to pause for is usually YouTubers try to block out the names of people who criticize them so their fans don't attack them.
Oh yeah, that's true. And he didn't do that. He's not doing.
He's talking about creator responsibility. This doesn't show much responsibility on his part. He knows these people are going to get hate piled.
And see, it's not that I care that much, but if the other side did it, they'd give him shit.
Yeah, it's the double standard that I have an issue with, not the fact that he's not censoring it.
But no, I want to know what his fucking point was. I get it. I get what the people are saying it was, but what was your fucking point?
Yeah, exactly. I want to hear the real fucking argument and give you an honest shot here. I'm willing to point out where I feel you're correct, but you have to actually show your points.
YouTuber who has different opinions from you, which we're gonna get to all this in a little bit, but the kid that he was talking about defending himself was Kyle Rittenhouse. The Hills Have Eyes is their favorite thing to use against me because it is really all they've got. And not that we should be really taking the opinions of Crackhead Clyde extremely seriously, but the issue is the army of Crackhead Clydes that will read a single tweet about you and then assume that it is true, and hold that against you for years.
Okay,
literally, there has not been a single week that has gone by in over 2 years that I didn't have somebody saying something shitty to me about that video. And I don't think that most of them have actually even watched it. And I kind of want to look at this, because posting that video was a huge negative turning point in my life, and the way that that one video was received has really impacted everything around me. Before that, I was relatively comfortable financially. I could make the kinds of videos that I wanted to, and have honestly struggled very badly ever since then. If you want to know why I make so many franchise videos now, it's because I still need to eat, and those are the only things that ever gain any traction now. Everything else I do dies as soon as it's released. For transparency, this is a graph of my total lifetime views on my channel, and this is the point where I posted The Hills Have Eyes. There is a clear delineation before and after me making that, and at least from my perspective, I'm not really sure if that response was entirely fair or justified. I don't think that as a person I deserve that based on my performance in that one single video. I understand that I am not entitled to your time whatsoever or anything like that. I'm just a guy on the internet. But if you stopped watching me over the public reception to that one work, then I kind of want to talk about that a little bit here. Because there's not an insignificant amount of people who frequently...
Yeah,
I just need a fucking break, cause...
It's been...
What was the fucking point with the Hills Have Eyes?
I think he's been going on for like 5 minutes and he still hasn't presented a counter argument.
Yeah, that's you've got my attention, but you've completely you're killing it. You're dragging it on, and you're just pissing me off because now you're whining about how much fucking money you make.
You're basically just saying the same things over and over again with different words. And you're doing on a little pity party here, and it's like he's being smug, and he's also throwing a pity party. And it's like you're going out of your way to make yourself very unlikable, regardless if I can agree with you or not. Yeah, I have two major things right now. A lot of this could have been edited out and put on a personal channel and not on main. Yeah. And there's so much of this video that could just be cut down. This could be a 20-minute video if he'd just get to the fucking point.
Yeah, and again, this feels detached from the fucking shit from the beginning.
And not only is it detached from the beginning, so far we still haven't seen any bad conservative horror movies. It's been 30 minutes and I haven't seen a single bad conservative horror movie.
I have some bad news for you. I don't think there are any.
God damn it. Alright, keep going, asshole.
Untrue things about me. And in the long term, it has kind of ruined my ability to make a living doing what I want to do with my own work. And all of this has been built on a misconstrued idea of what I was actually talking about. But before we get to that, let's take a look at some other movies made by Wes Craven, so that we have proper context to actually talk about The Hills Have Eyes.
Okay,
because
we're gonna get into
Wes
the
Craven
argument
was
now?
undeniably an extremely left-leaning filmmaker, who infused that into practically all of his
I
work.
know that
He is probably
the
about the
Last
most
House on the
leftist
Left
mainstream
was
horror
made
filmmaker that was
in
ever working
response
at his
to,
level. The dude genuinely hated most things that modern
the
America stood
Vietnam
for,
War.
including corporate culture, the decline and failure of our systems, the harm and uselessness of the police, the damage that white culture has done to non-white cultures both within the physical boundaries of the United States but also on a global scale. You can find this subtext throughout every single one of his films. It's just an objective fact. Take Nightmare on Elm Street, a movie about a child killer who the government let go on a technicality, where the system failed them so badly that the parents of the victims have to band together to form some sort of frontier justice lynch mob, because the government is so useless that they have let him slip through the cracks. So, Nancy's mother, Marge, says at one point in relation to Krueger being able to walk free, well, the lawyers got fat and the judge got famous, but somebody forgot to sign a search warrant in the right place and Krueger was free just like that. In the end, a teenage girl has to take down the rapist herself while the cops stand right outside on the front lawn listening to her screams, watching and going, oh gosh, oh gee, whatever are we gonna do, which is something that is still happening in real life. And in that light, a running theme throughout every single one of Craven's Scream films is how the cops are incompetent, and never once in any of the movies do they actually catch the killer. And that's not even to mention the criticisms of Harvey Weinstein in Scream 3. If you look at his 1981 follow-up to The Hills Have Eyes, Deadly Blessing, it too has a strong message on the ineffectiveness of the police, as when one of our main women protagonists is basically begging the sheriff to do something about a dangerous man, instead of just sitting by and watching it.
More hilarious?
What?
If Wes Craven made a response video and said you're so full of shit it's not even funny.
That would be great.
Things happen to innocent people, he says to her,
Wait, is he
if
still
something
alive?
happens, I won't be here in time for nothing but cleanup. Vampire in Brooklyn is kind of a strange movie, one that dares to ask the question, what if we cast Eddie Murphy and Angela Bassett to play love interest, and then gave them the same haircut? And also in that it kind of doesn't really have a protagonist, which is unusual for a horror film. Whoever the protagonist is really is determined by what part of the movie that you're at. But we start with Julius, who is struggling, works a bad job, and has a deep distrust of the police, who weirdly have German Shepherds. It seems like Wes Craven liked to use German Shepherds as a visual code for racist cops. Anyways, he has an older relative who is sucking him dry by overcharging him and other young people to live in the apartment building that he owns, while he gets rich and does basically nothing. Where they later literally try to eat their landlord before instead forcing him to be their servant and drive them around in a stolen limo. Another instance of Craven using a cannibalism metaphor in relation to wealth and power dynamics. A movie that also includes a scene where a white woman holds a black man hostage in a park with pepper spray up to his eyes, telling him that she hates to do this because she understands what capitalism has done to black culture, but that she just doesn't feel safe seeing him in the park after dark. A total parody on the hypocritical mindset that liberals have held for decades now. It is also not the only movie that he made that primarily features an all-black cast, and is based around issues that affect black people. The Serpent and the Rainbow is about an all-white imperialist American pharmaceutical company who sends a tall, white, light-haired, handsome man to try and incorporate himself into the culture of Haiti, to learn their tricks of how they create Haitian zombies, to then steal their old folk medicines so that they can market them and capitalize off of them. Midway through the movie, at the dinner scene at the CEO's house, where they are planning and celebrating this, genuinely having a conversation about violence that they plan to enact against poor black people. Everyone who is at the table is white, and the butler who serves them is black. And because he's there to steal from them, the protagonist is never able to actually immerse himself in their culture, and never attempts to understand the Haitians on a spiritual level. He is a cultural leech. And just because he is the protagonist does not mean that Craven is trying to paint him as a good person. Just like with the family in The Hills Have Eyes. In fact, just like The Hills Have Eyes, Craven is using Serpent and the Rainbow to show a very complicated situation, where both sides have strong issues going on, as the black political antagonist of the film are using excessive violence and fear to politically control their people through police force. Everyone is painted in shades of gray, but Craven clearly does not think that our protagonist is actually a good person. The People Under the Stairs follows a black child who's being evicted because his family cannot pay their rent and his mother is dying of cancer, which results in an adventure that leads him to learning that their white landlords are secretly BDSM, racist, serial-killing, incestuous siblings who got into the landlord business to be able to still inflict pain in their non-killing hours. It is not a stretch to suggest that the man who made a movie about landlords being evil, racist monsters who are going to be killed by their community would have some other things to say about the systematic economic problems in America and how it relates to racial history. And clearly based on his other works. If he has a protagonist in a story that is an old white cop, like in The Hills Have Eyes, he is not going to write him as if he is a good person. I'm not saying my opinions here. I am literally telling you factual information about what happens in these movies. There is this thing that the internet does, where one person says something that is false but sounds believable and is tangentially related to what actually happened, and then other people start to repeat it out of context, and morph it, and slowly escalate it, until it just becomes general belief, even though it is detached from reality. And this is what I think happened here in my situation, where people somehow got the notion that I was a racist, pro-cannibal, pro-rape, and sexual assault weirdo, which, you know, I find genuinely insulting. It's like, people somehow got the notion that I was a racist, pro-cannibal, pro-rape, and sexual assault weirdo, which, you know, I find genuinely insulting. It's like some people had never heard of the concept of a metaphor before. So, if we go back to my original video, okay? My basic argument was that the Hill people in The Hills Have Eyes are a stand-in for any type of person who has been marginalized by the American imperial machine. Native Americans, any non-white people really, queer people, poor people, anyone who would stand in opposition to the family, whose father is a police officer, whose background is upper middle class, who are openly racist, demanding, and hostile, who also have a German Shepherd as their chosen pet. They are a family made up of racist red flags, and I discussed how the movie is about a conflict when those ideologies come into contact. When a group who has had everything taken away from them, and another who reaps the benefit of the taking, are suddenly placed on the same level and are told to duke it out for survival. About how at the end of the day, when push comes to shove, we are all capable of great violence against one another. I do not think that that is an outrageous reading of that film. It isn't even really subtext, it's just the plot of the movie. People got extremely mad at me for recapping the plot of The Hills Have Eyes. Because genuinely, if you go back and watch that video, that is all I am doing. It is a very basic reading on Wes Craven's intended message of that film based on his own words and what he put on the screen. I'm not even saying that I agree with everything going on in the movie. I also certainly did not write the movie. And truth be told, I also think that Wes Craven is a little overrated, and I'm somewhat mixed on his filmography as a whole. Thematically, I think he's great, but on a basic filmmaking level, he was at times fairly weak. I was literally just talking about what Craven was trying to do in his script and how he saw the movie. That's all. Still, I started to receive comments like this. I can't imagine watching this film and coming away with the conclusion that the cannibals are secretly the good guys, and the biggest tragedy is that they didn't eat the people passing through. He stabs him in the heart not to kill him, but to remind him of his place. Or maybe it was just to kill the cannibal who attacked him and his family. I don't know. Just my interpretation. It's edgy takes for the sake of engagement. Love this channel, but I don't think it was actually fine that these cannibals killed, raped, and ate people who just crashed their car in the wrong spot because capitalism is bad, and actually they are the good guys, is the take that I would have gone with. You can defend your home without eating people. You have an extremely warped moral compass. Class this, class that, Blah blah blah. I like your videos, but the commie talk is distracting and arrogant. We side with the vacationing family because they are a down on their luck group, trying to get unstuck until they're hunted by opportunistic murders who want to eat them. They're not inherently sympathetic because they're white or rich, they're sympathetic because they're the victims in the movie, not just the victims in your metatextual want for what you think the movie should be. The Carters win because good should triumph over evil. Jesus, Wes is spinning in his grave for an hour and 25 minutes.
Okay, yeah,
Woke Overthinking presents a woke critique of a
Bloody
B-movie lacking any intellectual heft. If I had a nickel for every time a horror channel assumed
I
something in a
remember
film
with-
is
or
an
maybe
allegory
both-
or a metaphor,
him
I'd
or
be
John
rich by
England
now.
was dead, but I
So
guess it might be
tiring.
both of them.
I think this dude is gay or some. He can't go a video without mentioning disrespect towards them folks. Also, the hillbillies are cannibals. How are you gonna sympathize with them? Had to stop watching at 15 minutes. I think you're viewing the film through a modern woke lens, and you're really stretching the themes to fit your personal bias. Really hard to take you seriously
Get the
now.
fucking
Just
point.
because you're a communist doesn't mean that every movie is about class struggle or social
Oh my God,
inequality.
another
Holy
fucking
cow,
comment.
you make it sound like the cannibal rapists are the good guys. Gross, dude. Typical liberal
He's had this
garbage.
chip on
Every
his
time I
shoulder
think
for
I
2
like
years
this
and he's
channel,
just
this
been
guy
waiting for a
spews some
chance to air
overthought
out
lefty
every
garbage
single
that takes me
comment he's
right
ever
out.
gotten.
So what I have gathered from this
know.
video is people who commit tragedies such as mass shootings are justified because they have been wronged by society, and society should
I don't
expect
even really
innocents
have
to
a
suffer
problem with
because
his
of that.
opinion of
Oof,
the movie.
the over-interpretation
It's the
of capitalism
whininess.
bad by making the
I
literal
know.
raped, murdered, and eaten
Well, see,
victims
that's the
into
big
the
problem
bad
is,
guys
like,
of the movie was my cue to unsung.
I still saw
Sorry,
the remake
bud,
as a
you
kid. I've
lost
never
me.
seen the
You went
original.
way too off
I'm
the
assuming
mark.
you haven't
I've
either.
enjoyed
No.
several of your videos, but
So,
damn, you
we'd
seem to
have
be a
to
bit
ask,
lost
like,
in this
I think
one.
Vince
Your
saw
stances
the-
just seem a
Vince
bit
saw it
warped.
not
And why
too long
inject
ago, so we'd have
politics
to,
into
like,
a
ask
movie
Vic
anatomy?
his
Social
fucking
justice?
opinion.
I was rolling my
Vic is the
eyes
worst
throughout.
person
I
to
mean,
ask.
come on, man.
Not because he's bad with movies. He's really good with
LOL,
movies.
I've watched a
but
few other
he's
videos of his
very
and didn't notice his
anti-liberal, and I feel
political
like he
leanings, and
wouldn't
here's
see
the
a
thing,
liberal
I don't
bent unless
actually
the
care
video-
what they
the
are.
movie
It's
actually
just
said
pretty
anything.
silly to
he-
inject social justice
Oh,
into
no,
a
he
review of
has
The Hills
no
Have
problem
Eyes,
seeing, like,
LOL.
liberal,
Yeah,
like,
I can't help but disagree with this
ideology in
video.
films.
This might be your
Okay.
worst
Especially
yet.
anti-cop, because, you know, Vic is very
This is how
anti-cop.
she started losing weight.
My name is Debbie,
So-
and with Noom, I've lost
Maybe you should
130
just, like,
pounds.
DM him and ask him
I
his thoughts
despise
real
your
quick.
political analysis of this film.
All right, I
Calling
will do
police
that.
Or pause it real quick, because I need a fucking break, because this fucking guy going on. Oh, he's still fucking going on about it.
He's still
Oh.
reading fucking comments.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm just trying to think from what I know of the movie. Okay, so it's just a family. They get lost. They're, I guess they're bourgeois white. Or they represent, like, you know, white privilege and cops and stuff. And I guess the cannibals are the disenfranchised. But it's also kind of like I think they're incest cannibal. I can kind of like imagine it in my head, but I don't know, because I mean, again, I haven't seen the film. I don't even remember the first one. He didn't even fucking. I don't get why he had to go through all those films. He could have just, you know, last house on the left. That was his first movie,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like that one's, you know, it's a response to the Vietnam War, and it even has the bumbling cops in it. So it's like just go with that to make your point, and then we can, you know, that's the first movie. Hills of Eyes, this is like the second, I believe. So it's like, I feel like that would be all you would really need. You don't need to go through just like 10 different fucking films. And a lot of this stuff feels like shit that you should like leave to your second channel.
Yeah.
And this definitely should not have been just one fucking video.
Okay, I want to make sure this sounds alright. I don't want Vic to think I'm setting him up for a joke. Hey Vic, sorry to bug you. I have a question. I'm not being sarcastic and setting you up for a joke or anything, but what is your metatextual analysis of the original Hills Have Eyes? As short as possible. You don't need to waste hours writing for me. Just curious your take compared to this idiot we're watching.
Yeah, I think that idiot we're watching, he'll get the point. Yeah. Hopefully he responds with, while we're still going on. Or I guess whenever we come back, we'll throw in whatever he said.
Yeah, we're only going to watch about 5 more minutes of this jackass's video for tonight, and then we'll hit it again next week, but yeah. Are you ready to continue reading comments?
Yeah.
Officers, people who put their lives on the line for a job, a symbol of oppression, shows a huge bias on your end. People are a lot more than their political affiliation, but I don't think you showcasing yours is very much appreciated by your audience. Would really appreciate it if you tried to be more impartial. 18 minutes in and I had to stop because it really is an unwatchable video. Incredibly sad because I enjoyed a lot of the In Defense of Nicolas Cage. It really feels like night and day in terms of quality of the essay. While everyone is free to think what they want, and I really appreciate and enjoyed some of your other videos, here you're basically justifying that people should be assaulted, raped, cannibalized, based on their socioeconomic status and, dare I say, skin color. Would you have reacted the same way if the family was black, or came from another racial background? Or is it only okay because the rich family was white? You are such a talented writer, with an impressive ability to digest a movie, but unfortunately, as so often these days, your politics tend to ruin some parts of your videos whenever you put your postmodern lens on. Sadly, you seem to be lost in a pretty bad... Sadly, you seem to be in a pretty bad place right now. Your so-called anatomy is full of hate and cynicism. I hope you'll get better soon. Buddy, maybe leave out the half-baked race baiting and focus on the movie. Yeesh. I thought I was going to watch a movie retrospective, not be morally grandstanded at LMAO. This was honestly exhausting. You know, you do this long enough and you kind of develop this weird, broken, detached mental thing that I'm convinced that everyone who works long-term on the internet has. And I know that that was a lot of hateful comments to read back to back to back, but I'm just trying to communicate what it is like having the never-ending barrage of the internet saying bad things to you on a daily basis that are not founded in reality. What was really distressing to me though in this time is that I slowly started to watch it leave my comments section and just became an accepted idea about me outside on the internet at large. Someone on Reddit in this time said, I like In Praise of Shadows a decent bit for horror analysis, but his video on Hills Have Eyes is such a wild case of tunnel vision that even his normally receptive audience calls him out on it across the comments section. He digs into this interpretation of the first film as a critique of modern society, where the incestuous cannibals are the real heroes, and we're tricked into rooting for the empty consumers trespassing on their land because they look like us. And it's just very weird, especially in how much he refuses to address the amount of sexual assault the cannibals perpetrate. I'm all for wild interpretations of the thematic meanings of art, within reason. This goes well beyond reason. And you know, these things are half-truths. It removes all nuance regarding the use of metaphor in the film. And I know I'm including a lot of examples in this section, but I'm just trying to communicate exactly how in this situation I said one thing, and then it got misconstrued as another that slowly eroded people's view in my writing and their trust in me, which has made the past 2 years a very dark time in my life. And on the notion of refusing to address something, that is something that gets said a lot about critics and YouTubers in general, that if something wasn't directly mentioned, then it must be obviously a refusal to mention it, or a massive oversight that must be pointed out by the commenter. Neither of which are true in this instance, or in most instances that assertion is ever made. You don't work on a project for 100 hours and then just accidentally forget to include something. I assure you that thought was put into the words that I was saying. I incorporated all forms of violence into one for that video because the metaphor of the movie is about aggression and revenge, whether that be sexual, outright physical, or even eating the victims. All of them to the Hill people are expressions of forms of revenge, one and the same. It literally makes no sense to talk about them as if they were 3 different things within that context, because as far as the movie is concerned, all of the violence falls under the same blanket of metaphorical rage. It would only take up time to not actually end up saying anything that I hadn't already said. And if I went down a list and addressed every single act of violence individually, that just would be pointless. And also, it isn't me saying that I think that these things are good in real life. Obviously. We are talking about fiction here. The Hills Have Eyes never happened. Wes Craven made that up. These are not real people. And I know I normally don't have to go that basic with what I'm saying, but in this instance, I guess it does have to be said. Because near weekly for over 2 years, at least one person has insinuated to me that I supposedly think people's flesh should literally be eaten off their bodies because they can afford a camper. And I won't name names, but the thing that really hit me the hardest is that when I decided to stop reading comments and just tried to distract myself by scrolling on Twitter, and on my For You page, I found a thread of mutuals openly making fun of me for my failure of the video amongst themselves, just openly in public. Some of them using words like idiot and stupid, many of which I could tell had not actually watched the video based on what they were saying. They were genuinely just calling me dumb without trying to meet me on my level of what I was trying to say, instead just believing what other people were saying about me. And that was so hurtful that I can't even fully communicate it to you. To see this notion escape the comments section, which, you know, it's YouTube, sometimes it can be a little bit out there, into the more real digital life on the internet and Twitter and beyond, to where even people who knew me were making fun of me in posts that the algorithm recommended to me, was the lowest point in my career.
It's the fucking irony
Again,
that gets me.
I won't say who they are. I don't want people to get mad at them for this, but I still remember, and to be honest, I will always see those people differently from now on. And if I met them in person, I would never be more than just cordial. I would never be their friend, and I'm usually not like that. I decided then that I was never going to acknowledge that this was happening. I was just going to go on about my life, keep making videos, and hope that things would be fine. But they weren't. They never really were again after that for me. Like I said, this never actually stopped happening. It is still going on to this day. It keeps happening, continuing to mutate and escalate to where now people are openly making fun of me about The Hills Have Eyes to my face, in spite of being totally detached from the reality of what was even said in that video. They don't even treat me like a person. Recently I said something related to the Cherokee on Twitter near where I live, which is something we are going to get to here in a little bit. And somebody said to me, "Hi, I live in Oklahoma and am a Native American. Go fuck yourself." Like, what do I even do with that? I've never once in my life said something negative about Native Americans, but there are a whole group of people who treat me with open hostility over a perceived belief that I said something awful, when all I did was talk about something that somebody else had said. Another example for you is when one woman last year said, "He is up his ass and has been for several videos now, and he apologized rape in media as art." What do you expect of someone who calls himself an artist on every video? And now, you know, I normally have a rule for myself of refusing to engage in purposefully combative comments, but this one made me really mad. And I said back to them, "I can assure you that I have never done that. That accusation is disgusting to me, and putting those words in my mouth is in extremely bad faith." To which she said, "I wouldn't make that accusation if it wasn't something you have done. Either way, you sadly became full of yourself, mourning over your poor artist soul and drowning in self-pity."
Most people have no clue that in 2023, the best way to make money on Amazon is not with physical products.
Is this the only video where you're like, "Oh, thank God, an ad"?
Yes.
Did Vic ever fucking respond?
I don't think so.
Probably not.
Nope, not yet.
That's just Vic. He's never there when you need him, you know?
And looking at my screen, he's trying to escape my DMs like Zara was earlier. The DM is sliding off the screen.
That's funny.
Alright.
Some people got the idea that I was just some crazy person with outrageous fringe views who shouldn't be taken seriously by this unjustifiable snowball of a reaction.
This is good. That's the impression I'm getting of you from watching this.
I would like to submit to the court some evidence. He's saying that he's saying all of this, but at the same time, in Chapter 4, the chapter that got removed from this video, he basically said Wendigoon shouldn't be allowed in society.
He also thinks that, like, he's racist because Hawaiian shirt.
Yep.
To me, saying that maybe Wes Craven liked to write horror and metaphors, and enjoyed using visual shorthand symbols within his work, which is what most people who write horror do. and that maybe he used Native American visual codes as his narrative symbols, which was very heavy-handed but also was commonplace in the 1970s. I said nothing that was either groundbreaking, or new, or outrageous, or even original there. If anything, I was doing a basic recap of the history of criticism that has already been said 1,000 times before me, just to get past the first movie so that I could talk about the sequels, which is what I do in basically every single franchise video. That is the format. If you go back and look at all of those videos, they start with a basic overview of the first movie, followed by a more in-depth coverage of the less talked about sequels. That is why I make those videos. You can't say anything new about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre that hasn't already been said, but you could probably have a few new original ideas about the third and fourth movies. I used to hit 200 to 400,000 views per video, and now I'm hitting 50 to 100,000 most of the time, saying the exact same message that I used to say back then. But now I think with more skill than I used to have, with higher production values. And now, every time I make a video, the comments are often swamped with people still living off that meme of an idea, who only show up to say mean things about me and leave, that all started with The Hills Have Eyes. I used to not have that happen. If you go look, literally there is a hostile comment on every single video now within maybe 2 to 3 minutes of posting a new video. Say if you were to go back and look at my recent video on Blood Tea and Red String, within a minute of the video coming out, a man had posted, "I'm just here to see how long it takes him to whine about the racist patriarchy," to which someone else said, "If you dislike his videos so much, why do you watch and comment on them instead of watching something you actually enjoy?" To which he said in return, "'Cause I'm a dick." This meme of an idea has directly impacted my work, my sense of self, and the videos that I am able to make. And I don't really think that that's fair. There was a month last year where I only made $500 in ad revenue. I can't live off that. The amount of times that I've almost had to stop making videos since then has been almost monthly. I've barely been able to keep this afloat. I've paid my rent late most months for the past year. The cruel and untrue things that you say about another person do in fact have direct impacts on them and the way that people culturally see them. It's why I've pushed my Patreon so much in the past year, even though I know it's annoying as fuck to do. Because it is literally the only resource that is keeping this thing going after what happened. And you could say there's other contributing factors that led to the decline over time. It is true that views have gone down for everyone, but if you look at the hard data, there really is a clear line here with The Hills Have Eyes. I had just come off of one of my biggest hits ever with In Defense of Nicolas Cage, and then my next video after Hills, still to this day, only has 73,000 views. And I just personally believe that there has to be something that caused that kind of shift. And you know, I know that people have the right to say whatever they want about me, and that maybe it is foolish for a creator to try and fight back against a public response. I have said many times that once you release something, that it is public and no longer fully yours, and I still believe that. But at the same time, I do think that a conversation around a work or topic can be wrong or even misguided, which I obviously think happened here. I think it is within my right to talk about this on my own channel. And if you have said these things about me or to me, that is totally within your right to do. But I do want to ask you to consider why you're actually still saying them to me still 2 years later. What point are you trying to make besides baseless general cruelty? Are these your own genuine original thoughts and criticisms that you have based on my actual words and things that I have done? Or maybe did you read something about me 2 years ago that you thought was funny and that was not actually true? And have latched onto a meme that was not based in fact, that said that I'd become some kind of racist, pro-rape, pro-cannibalist extremist. I have always and will always speak on the idea that horror is about love, and that this is all about love. If you somehow took away that I actually think that it's a good idea for people to be eaten alive, then I don't know what to tell you. We are just operating in totally different realities. We don't speak the same language. I would argue that maybe you are the one who has changed in their values, and not myself. Or that maybe you haven't thought critically about what you were reading online.
So he's literally saying, I didn't word things badly, you just took it badly. It's the entire internet's fault, not mine.
About other people. People often say to me when talking about my Hills Have Eyes videos, that I used to not be like that, and that they liked my older work before that. Often citing my Return to Oz one, which is always very funny to me, because I talk about Gilded Age capitalist rot, and the benefits of communism, and the tragedy of the genocide of the Native Americans in that video. In fact, I feel like whether it was my video on witches or the treatment of women historically, my video on Lovecraft and queerness, Beksinski and the Holocaust, horror comics and government censorship and attitudes towards sexism, racism, and violence in the 1950s, that my views have never actually changed. which I think is the necessary thing needed to be a good critic. Perspective. You have to be able to clearly articulate your personal perspective and values in life in order to do this job. And on that front, I have not changed since I started doing this. I've gotten better at expressing those ideas, but the core has always remained intact. All of my most popular videos back then were just as leftist as the type of content that I do now. The only thing that has changed is the conversation and culture around them, where now I get comments like, yeah, this channel is really good, but the wokeness is all over most recent videos, and really is super distracting and yes, disappointing. Can you make anything without going on and on about irrelevant modern social justice shit? These videos have always been the same. If you say these things about me, then please revisit the older ones that you liked before. You'll find that they say the exact same things as the new ones that you hate now. I was sitting in a doctor's office 2 years ago now, mentally dealing with everything that was going on, believing that my career was over.
Vic
reading
responded.
What'd he say?
Okay. Basically, of civility versus barbarity and how razor thin that margin actually is. Admittedly, I think the remake does a stronger job of conveying that idea than the original, but that is basically what Wes Craven's goal was, at least to my best recollection.
Okay, going off of that, this guy would not be far off, I wouldn't think.
He's got a little bit more focus on the poor versus rich. But, yeah.
Yeah. But again, Raven Vic says that the remake did it better, in his opinion.
Yep.
So see, it could be partially on the fault of the movie itself, just not conveying its point as best it could. Or this guy could have just like not done a very good job at making his point originally. I don't know. And see, maybe I'd give him the benefit of the doubt, but like he's showing so far that he's not very good at making his point concise.
Yeah.
Let's keep trying to go until we get to like the next chapter.
Alright, we'll try to finish out this chapter.
About what people were saying about me, and just generally, feeling pretty bad about myself, when I read something by a Reddit user going by the name John Latour, who made me so happy that I actually cried sitting there in public reading that, because I felt like it was the first time that someone had publicly seen and understood the situation that I was in, and saying that they understood what I was going for and that my treatment had not been fair. One person had said about me, he really is amazing when he can keep from white knighting for women and minorities. When he does that, he starts misinterpreting shit just to shoehorn things into whatever agenda he is trying to push. I lost it when he was trying to defend the mutants from The Hills Have Eyes as representative of the minority underclass and that we should actually sympathize with the horrific rapist monsters. Like, I highly doubt that was the point of those movies at all. To which John calmly responded, if you want to watch horror movies for what they are on the surface level of tension, scares, and kills, that's totally fine. But tons of horror movies are deserving of a more contextual analysis, and many had filmmakers who went into those films with those intentions. And there's nothing wrong if you don't want to subscribe to a director's views or intentions either, and have your own. If you listen to the commentary on The Hills Have Eyes as well as Last House on the Left, Craven pretty clearly sought to make a statement with those two films. Here are some quotes directly from Craven. When we were doing this, I was always thinking of the whole third world rage against the US and white Western society. Jupiter's speech that he gives to the father's head was basically written from that perspective. I'll watch your cars rust out. It was almost anticipation of the 9/11 rage of other people against us, that we can't imagine they would be as wild and as vicious as they are. I was so struck by how, on one hand, you have this feral family that's killing people and eating them, but if you look at it, they weren't doing anything that much worse than civilization did when they caught them. And I just thought, what a great kind of A-B of culture. How the most civilized can be the most savage, and how the most savage can be civilized. I used the theme in a more conscious way with Hills. I constructed these two families as mirrors of each other. I found it very interesting to look at ourselves, to think of ourselves as having the capacity for not only great good but also for great evil. Craven pretty explicitly does not view either sides as heroes. His goal was basically to strip one side of all of their material and civilized possessions, to show that we are both capable of the same brutality. Let's not forget how we are really introduced to Bob once they are actually standing with Bob saying, 25 years I'm a cop, and the worst goddamn precinct in Cleveland. N-words shoot arrows at me, and hillbillies throw dogs off the roof at me. I'm even shot on 2 separate occasions by my own men. But none of these bastards ever come as close to killing me as my own goddamn wife and her goddamn roadmaps and her wrong turns and her goddamn hysterical screaming. That doesn't sound like a hero to me. Anyways, my whole point is that nobody is wrong for how they watch horror movies. If you watch them because you like the thrill or seeing sweet kills, gore effects, or because you appreciate what some of these films are trying to say about society, and how they can turn a mirror towards us. Horror has always rode the line between entertainment and a reflection of our own sociological fears. And that's why the genre is great, because it has a lot to offer all of us. Needless to say, I also recommend In Praise of Shadows, and hope everyone here has a great day. And John, I don't know you, but if you're watching this, I just want to say thank you. Because I was in a really dark place in that time period. And what you said there, I know you never thought that I would actually read, but I did. And your words mattered to me. It made such a difference for me that I still think about it. It is still one of the most important things that a stranger has ever said to me about my work. And it came to me at a time when I was in a really rocky place, and I needed you to hear that. So, thank you.
It's the fact that he's just whining.
Doctor provides balance made simple.
They provide a new menu every week with delicious nutrition.
Way longer than it needs to be. Oh, 3. Look, we finally get to the actual. Watch it not actually be about.
It only took 58 fucking minutes.
Watch this part have nothing to do about actual conservative horror movies.
Right. Okay, so we'll have to do like 2 more parts, I think. But so far, my overall opinion of this video is this man needs to learn how to take criticism, first of all. Second of all, it's okay if people don't make everything political. If you want to do that, great. Fight for what you believe in, but don't expect everybody else to do it as well. And most importantly, if you're going to cry over every mean thing that's said on the internet, maybe you shouldn't be on the internet.
Look, here's the thing, okay? Points aside, it's like, these 2 things just barely are, they're very barely attached to each other, right?
Yeah.
Like, these feel like these should have been, like, 2 different movies, or 2 different videos. And not to mention, it's like he just stretches shit out and out. And it's like you could be more concise. And it's like you could you could make your point clearer, maybe. Because maybe that's the reason people misunderstood you, is because you just don't know how to make your point.
Yeah.
Because it's like, it's not just me, right? He gave the impression that he thinks that, like, people who just enjoy horror movies as entertainment are lesser.
Yes, he definitely
and
gave that.
And like they shouldn't exist.
Yeah.
Or he definitely had a negative attitude towards them earlier, but then now he's like reading this all out, saying that either way is fine. It's like it feels contradictory.
It's definitely contradictory. There is a 0.00001% chance that In Praise of Shadows watches this video. If he does, do you have anything you want to say to him?
Well, I mean, so far, just learn to be more concise and clear with what you're saying.
Yeah.
Because it's harder to, like, see, I think that's the thing. It's harder to, like, really get what your point is when you're just dragging it out. See, he thinks he's nailing his point in, when really he's just, like, it's like kind of actually doing the opposite. It's making it harder to know what the fucking point of this video is.
I think there's a word for it. I'm a dumb redneck, so I might be pronouncing this wrong, but I think it's called bloviating.
Yeah. I think that's it too. Just like, it's like there's some. I think there's good points in here.
Yeah, I can't disagree with everything he said. He's made some points that have made sense, but the way that he presents himself and the words that he chooses to use come off as hostile in a way, like passive aggressive kind of hostile.
It's very passive aggressive. And also he's very smug while being whiny. And it's like, you've got like, you're pretty privileged, man. You got 400K subscribers.
Yeah.
And it's like, you're worried, and it's like, mean comments, you know, that's part of the fucking internet. And it's like, yeah, I know it sucks, but it's like...
if getting dogpiled as bad as he did, I can understand that that's got to be hard to deal with. I was being an ass earlier, but I can understand that that would be difficult to deal with. But I still think that the moment that the backlash started, rather than playing this attitude of I'm right, everybody else is wrong, make an addendum video clearing up what you meant, be more concise, and take the criticism as maybe I'm having trouble wording myself and I need to look at how I'm presenting my videos and present my points more concise and clearly.
Yeah, because it's like, even without having seen that video, it's like from watching this, like you don't come across like you're very good at that.
Yeah.
Because you're just... And what else was I about to say? Fuck, man, just... Again, we haven't even gotten to the fucking Wendigo shit that I keep saying that's like so much worse, but it's like... Yeah... Again, it's not even the point. The points aren't even that's crazy to think about. It's not the points that are like the main bad point here. It's just the way he presents himself and the way he like puts all this shit out. Just comment after comment after comment. It's like,
he also comes off as very elitist. Like he thinks he's better than everybody else. And not in the funny Vic kind of way, but in the legitimate kind of way.
Yeah. He does kind of... Yeah, there's a very definite, like, lacking in self-awareness with this guy.
So far, I rate this video a 2 out of 10. And I hope he makes some better points and learns how to articulate himself better as the video goes on. But I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at least we're at bad conservative. See, that's another thing. Don't fucking clickbait people like that, man.
Yep.
Like, he knows what he was doing with that fucking title.
It feels like a lot of this is just anger that's been building up, and now he's using a video to lash out.
Yeah, there's definitely that. Which, I mean, on one hand, it's like, I guess it's fine. But it's like, you've made it into this, like, giant, this 3-hour, like, abomination of Lovecraftian demon of a video.
And it did not work out the way you intended. You managed to turn yourself into a lol cow. Never go full lol cow.
He went full lol cow, I think. And I think we've been fair.
I've been an asshole, but I've been fair with like listening to his points and trying to understand what he means.
We both obviously went in with like, you know, already kind of negative preconceptions.
Yeah, because like I enjoy Wendigoon's content, and I think that he comes across as a genuine person. I don't know what he's like behind closed doors. He could be a complete asshole, but he presents himself as a very kind person, and I don't understand why the attacks on him just because of his associations. It's fucking stupid in my opinion.
It's not even like it's not even me coming at it as a Wendigo fan, as much as just like the clips I saw were just like so batshit, like insane.
Yeah.
And it's like you're so obviously wrong in spots, but then you make insane points, and then it's like you admit you're wrong, but then you still kind of like act smug with that fucking non-apology. You should have just got out the ukulele. I think that would have went down better.
Yeah. I will say this. I think he's able to pay his rent this month with this one video. But I don't think it went the way he wanted.
That's true. See, you can't see the dislikes, but I do believe that they're in like... I can't remember how much they were last time, but there's definitely way more dislikes now.
Yeah, Safari doesn't have an extension to show dislikes, unfortunately.
Here, I'll check real. Yeah, I'll check real quick.
Okay.
Let's see. I could be wrong, but I think there's like 10 times as many. But conservative or maybe let's see. No, it's not that much. He has 25,000 dislikes to 8,000 likes.
That's still a pretty big ratio.
That is pretty big. I do know that I know when I first looked at it and what was first going around, it was still more. There was more likes and dislikes, but you know,
yeah,
that's definitely.
I feel like he thought this was going to be his magnum opus.
I do think so. I do think that there is that thing too. I mean, everybody compares it to the fucking H-Bomber guy vid.
Yeah,
and it's kind of like hard not to see that.
Yeah, I didn't even know people were making that comparison, and I made that comparison.
Oh, you didn't?
No, I had no idea.
Oh yeah, I know. Yeah, I've seen several.
But see, the difference, the main difference is even if you don't like H-Bomber Guy, because I know you personally don't because of the way that he dealt with the internet historian thing, he's good at articulating his points, and he's good at making them concise even in a long video.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I also hated him. Actually, the main reason I hated him was over the mass Matosis Dark Souls 2 thing.
I don't remember that.
You don't? I think that's like one of the videos he got like a lot of shit for.
Oh, okay.
No, that's the one that fucking Mahler made like a 10-hour like reply to.
Oh my god, a 10-hour reply.
Yeah, that's like one of the main. I think that's like one of the main things that like Mahler was like caught on for. And it was like that 10-hour reply video, which it's pretty good ASMR stuff.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's what I've kind of been using Mooncat for now that I've recently found her channel, because all of her videos are like over an hour long. Some of them are upwards of 3 hours, and they're good to just kind of turn on and tune out.
Yeah. That's fun. And this guy.
All right, I think we've said everything we need to say for part 1. Make sure to dislike, leave a nasty comment, and unsubscribe from the channel.
Yeah. What channel are we on? Are we gonna put this on your channel or my channel? Or
I was thinking on the Chicken Scratch channel, but if you want to do yours, we can do that.
Okay. Well, yeah, we'll put it up on your channel, and then I'll after we're done with all of them, you can send me the stuff so I can kind of edit it down.
Yeah, we can do a supercut on your channel.
Yeah, and I can I can do all the fancy editing and shit.
All right, sounds good.
So you're not going to be free Wednesday?
No, I'm working for one of my coworkers. Before I continue discussing that, I'll hit stop on recording. Have a great night, everybody.